What's up, guys? Welcome to the studio for AventuREalty. We're starting our new podcast, and basically what the goal of this podcast is to meet the people of Southern Indiana. So we give you guys a lot of content about, what to do in Southern Indiana, where to eat, where to live, all that kind of stuff. And this podcast is going to focus on the notable people. So today I got Scott Hawkins, who was very he was humble when I asked him to be a notable person. His response was, "Did you want me to come on and tell you who the notable people were?"
Yeah, because I could do that.
Yeah, but Scott, humble or not, he's got a great background. He's done a lot in our area. He has taught school for 20 years. He is a business owner. Him and his wife, along with another couple, own Transformation Salon. Yeah. He flips homes. He held his real estate license for a long time. And currently, he is on the city council from 2016 until now. So, right. All that being said, Scott, who is Scott Hawkins?
Oh, well, hey, I appreciate it. Just a local kid, grew up here, single mom, always loved Jeffersonville. My wife and I traveled extensively when we got together, and I didn't really find anywhere better. And so we raised our kids here, and I just think of myself as a local guy, just trying to find places to do some good, really. Right. Hopefully that's what a lot of people do. Yeah. And that's definitely what we've done. It's like, try to just put yourself in position to help your community. So.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to just jump in, kind of walk through your background here. I wanted to start, I didn't want to just brush past this 29-year teaching career. What's something you've learned in 29 years as a teacher? I mean, you're bound to have collected a few things in there.
Yeah, no question. It has been 29 years and then a year additional before that at Clarksville. And I've been at Jeffi for 29 years. It's teaching is great because even though it's the same job, it's different every day. Mm-hmm. So there's no, so many of my friends that have gotten in kind of the corporate world. Right. It's like they're an accountant. It's the spreadsheet looks the same, and in real estate's a lot like that as well. Like every day brings a different set of challenges. And that's what one of the things is you don't really, I think the lesson to be learned from teaching is you don't really focus on any particular data. You just kind of better yourself, and then you're enabled to overcome challenges. Sure. So a lot of you need to have a lot of self, a drive to make yourself better at all things. And then that makes you a better teacher. And just like it makes you a better realtor, makes you better in a lot of jobs, but it's more of you need to work on yourself in these things.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So and I'm just realizing I'm throwing these questions at you. I didn't talk to you ahead of time about this. So if you don't have a good answer, we can move on. But what advice would you give to a new teacher that's coming into it?
Marry somebody really wealthy. And then teaching is tough in that, there's budgetary constraints. There's so many teachers that have to be paid. It is a hard job. Somebody I used to teach for several years. I taught an IU course that was a first year teacher course. If you wanted to be a teacher, it was your freshman course. And if you don't have if you're not called to it, then don't bother.
Right.
Really, it takes a special, and of course, when you get into high school, like I've taught all these years, it can be more content driven. You can love history, you can love math. It can that can drive you. Yeah. But when you're elementary and middle, you have to be, there is no content. It has to be,
you can only teach 2 + 2 so many times and feel good about it. That's right.
And so you have to be it has to be a passion. And if you're pursuing your passion, you can overcome the shortcomings that the profession has.
Gotcha.
But if it's not your passion, then you need to rethink what your major is. Yeah.
Well, as a child of 2 teachers, I can attest to that for sure.
Well, and something that is great about teaching, and I think really the thing that I love the most about it, is to take away the job, is that if you want to have a family, both of your parents were teachers, I knew one was, I didn't know both were. Your time off lines up with your kids' time off. Right. So if that's in your window of I want to spend a lot of time with my family, that is the number one benefit that I had as a teacher was my 2 boys. We get vacation. I was off when they were off. It was awesome. So that's really an overlooked perk if you're family oriented and want to have a family. Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely look back on that as a perk, because I remember thinking as a kid, man, these suckers got to stay in daycare all summer. I either go home, we go on the boat, we go, all that stuff. So that's definitely a perk of it. But wanted to roll into your most current thing. So I guess from my standpoint, this question I'm going to lead into is because I cannot imagine anyone getting into politics.
Yeah.
It sounds like the worst thing to me to be scrutinized and all those things. So what made you want to get into politics?
Well, I taught government for however many years before 20. I'm not a math teacher, but before 2015, I taught government, most of that time. And I'd always tell the kids, like, it's so important. If you really want to live in a community that like you want to live in, you can't be passive. Like you need to be active, like coach Little League, like you need to do something. And you hear yourself say that enough. And then I thought, well, what am I, like I coach my Little Leagues and sports and stuff with my boys. And then the city annexed my neighborhood a little before 2015. And it really made me mad because my taxes went up. So I thought, you know what, I'd be good at this. I know budgets. I had a business then as well. And I was like, I'm going to do this. And Brian Glover at the time was our first city council person. And when I think he became commissioner or something and had left that seat vacant. Yeah. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and I'm going to do this. And at the city level, there's not a ton of partisanship. I mean, we're just trying to like get potholes filled, get the cops paid. Like we really don't ever, and I try to steer clear as much as possible from any kind of like hot button issues because it's just not useful at that level. Yeah. So as far as like the people, like, the nastiness of it, city council is kind of at the level where you don't partake in that, or at least I don't. You won't see anything on my social media or anything where I'm negative at all. I'm just trying to boost Jeffersonville. But at that next level, like my state rep campaign was my opponent chose to be very nasty. I mean, that's hard. And quite honestly, it's why good people like you would be great at it. Yeah. I would love to have you on the city council. I might, enlist you. And people, they just go, are you not like, because it keeps good people out of it. And that's the unfortunate reality.
It's hard. Yeah. You tend to see, it seems to see good people just get turned into monsters a lot of times. And, we don't necessarily at a higher levels, because it's hard to tell who really is the monster versus who got turned into the monster. But so what, and this is another question I'm going to throw out to you just because it's kind of off the top of my head here. But so you've been in city council since 2016. I know I have seen massive change in Jeffersonville since I don't know that I can benchmark 2016 exactly, but it sounds like a pretty close period of time where I've seen downtown Jeff grow and we've seen the east end of Jeff grow and all those things. What are some notable things that you have accomplished since you've been on city council?
We've done multiple. And at first I was starting to call them like generational projects, like once a generation type things. But then it seemed like we were doing so many of them. It was like, these aren't generational anymore. Yeah. These are just kind of what we do. But like people don't understand. People, they kind of take it for granted. And when you're just living your life, you're not paying attention to local government. Like the redoing of 10th Street was at the time, the biggest project Jeff ever did. And that was massively important. With Holman's Lane. Yeah. And people think, oh, it's a big deal. You put a turn lane. And like, you don't understand how hard that is once everything's already there. Like it is and it was needed. We're doing as I'm sure you're aware, Charlestown Pike, that into town. The biggest thing that I was first part of was adding Chapel Lake Park because I was my first city council seat. I'm at large now, which means I'm over the whole city. But back then I was just in the north end of the 6th district. Yeah, that
was your area.
And we got annexed and we didn't have any park sidewalk because we were part of the county. So that was my first push was we need a park up here. If we're paying all these taxes, then we should be treated like the rest of the city. And I think Chapel Lake Park has been one of the great successes. Awesome. Like it just drove up property values for people. It made River Ridge more appealing to companies to be able to use that space. Like that was great.
Yeah, we just did a video not too long ago on the disc golf course back there. So that's a lot of people don't even know that's back there. And it's like, I mean, it's all attached in there. It's super nice.
And people don't know there's fishing there. You can kayak. There's a kayak launch. Like that's been awesome. And then, smaller, but almost just as important is like Shirley's Arbor. And in downtown, things that you never see or think of, we had to do the EPA came in right when I was becoming a city council person and basically said you had to separate all your sewer and stormwater. Well, we hadn't done that, built it that way. So that was an enormous bill and project. Think about every sewer pipe now has to be redone. Wow. And so that's why, like, there's some downtown streets that had to be totally reworked. But I do want to make the point, I don't misunderstand. This isn't, Scott Hawkins didn't do those things.
You heard it here first. Scott Hawkins is solely responsible for everything.
Right. I mean, it is truly a team effort. You have so many people when you're doing something with government, so many people can screw it up.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like, the first rule of medicine is like, do no harm. That should be the first rule of politics. Right. Don't screw this up. But the mayor has provided great leadership on these big projects. I'm president of redevelopment as well, which that's a whole other kind of animal that deals with a lot of money on these big projects. But man, we have gotten so many of these big boxes, things that have needed to be done in Jeff since I was in high school. Like, it's just crazy. And
half the stuff you've mentioned isn't even the stuff that I've particularly noticed, because, I mean, how am I going to know anything about what the sewer's going on?
That's right. And it's so, like, for example, they built and then we just expanded the North End sewer plant. Mm-hmm. Nobody thinks about sewer. Yeah. Well, we were almost at capacity, which means no more businesses were going into River Ridge because there has to be somewhere for it to go. Yeah. And getting that done is an enormous win. In Sellersburg but it's not like the newspaper's like, more sewer pipes. But that is, if you don't have that, you have nothing. Yeah. And we just accomplished that as well, which was an enormous plus to the city. Yeah, that's a good point. So you started to talk about something I know you were just elected or appointed, I'm not sure which, to some type of position. Can you talk a little bit about what that is? Yeah. So the Redevelopment Commission, Economic Redevelopment Commission of Jeffersonville has 5 members. 3 are appointed by the mayor, 2 are appointed by city council. Okay. I received my appointment to that for the first time in 2019 maybe. And then I became the president. That body then voted me as the president in 2020. Okay. And every year we have to reappoint and revote for the president. And I've been fortunate in that I've kept being reappointed and kept being made the president. So we had our vote Wednesday. So I'm president again for another year of that 5-person body. Yeah. Awesome. And it deals. Congratulations, I think. It is. And that one is a congratulations because that is a lot of fun because that's collecting TIF dollars. So it's like you have to use the money to do economic development projects in certain areas of the city. So like the walking bridge, part of Chapel Lake Park, everything that you see in the city where it does like, oh, I see that. Right. That's where all that money comes from. And that's where we get to decide like what's going to have the biggest economic impact in different places using that money. One example would be we worked a deal with Greater Clark County Schools. We gave them some of the money for the new natatorium, which is an amazing bid. And in return, that'll be open for city use. Oh, awesome. So we got like that is going to draw people. Yeah. It's going, we already have events lined up for that. Like, so that's the kind of thing. Or if you're familiar with the depot downtown, that was a redevelopment project. Huh. Like that's going to bring people there, makes people spend their money. Gotcha. Like, so that has been a lot of fun being part of redevelopment. Yeah. So is that going to include all the stuff down there with Jeff Boat and everything that's going on in there? We are going to have to create that. Long thing. Yeah. That is, to be honest, there were a couple things that made me rerun for city council because you run your course on things, you have so much energy and then you quit doing that and do something else. I wanted to get the police and fire contracts settled this last time, which we're done with one of those, still working on the other. And that project may keep me around because I was the only time I don't really get nervous. I figure, I don't, what if I mess up something? Hey, I just messed up. I remember when we signed the papers for ACB for Jeff Boat to get underway, the city gave some money to them. So that gave us kind of a little bit of a locus of control because that's not a city project. Yeah. That's privately ran. Really? Okay. And we have to kind of set up the infrastructure for them and then they'll come in. And there have been a couple things that have kind of reworked the city of Jeffersonville, like the walking bridge. That is next level. Like you've never seen anything like what this is going to be. Yeah. And I remember since I was president of redevelopment, I had to sign and I was like, there was a big ceremony and it was all these fancy people in suits and I'm like wearing my Columbia thing. And I remember like when they gave me the pen and I signed, I wrote my signature and I was like, I can't even read that because I was shaking because I knew what a big deal this was, what a big deal that was going to be. And I'd like to, we're still a little bit of ways. There's so much work to be done before you start building anything. It's just the person who doesn't know how the development like that works, there's as much work that happens before dirt moves than after. Like it is really unbelievable.
Especially in a place like Jeff Boat that's had so much industrial type application for so long.
They have so much dirt and fill they have to bring to get part of it out of the flood. Yeah. There's different levels, as you know, like floodplain, floodway, and things. There's so much that has to be done that I want to make sure that that's right. Like I don't have to be there to the end, but we need to make sure we do it. It's like building a house. If you don't get the foundation right. It's wrong. And so I kind of have thought like that's been very exciting because that's more than anything else we've done on the city. I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, along those lines, is there anything else that's upcoming that people would want to know about? That's, new business coming to the area, new projects that are happening, anything like that?
Well, we will have I can say with confidence, with knowledge that 2025 will be very exciting, and we're going to have some announcements that are people that are
cool,
happy about. Particularly people in the North End will be happy about. But I'm also going to break a rule. I'm going to give you a date. You never talk about dates because 7,000 things will screw that up.
Same reason I don't tell listings when they have an offer coming in before I've got that offer.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Because way too many things are out of our control. And a developer, like everybody can be trying to meet that, and it just can't. But we should be February the 17th. We just had a redevelopment meeting Wednesday. And we should be opening up your road up there on the 17th. And there will be periods where they have to reclose, because large scale paving can only happen when the weather's warm.
Yeah.
So it'll be bad, but at least it'll be open. And then there's going to be a phase in, phase out local traffic. You're going to get all that. But once that project's done, that's changing the whole North End.
That's life changing for me.
And people don't realize how many homes, single family homes, are going to be. And I guess we should tell people that we're talking about Charlestown, the north end of Charlestown Pike.
Utica-Sellersville Road, Charlestown Pike area.
And that is, those are all going, they're not all platted yet, but you're talking like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of single family, nice single family homes. That'll be a very nice place to probably
roll off 5 developments that are still either actively rolling or about to start.
And every month, planning and zoning, here's another plat approval, so that project the road should be open on the 17th, and then we'll be paving once the weather breaks. So that's a big one.
Sweet.
And there are some like announcements, but you really don't want to give name. I didn't realize this before I got involved in this. Like the companies never want their name mentioned until they're pushing dirt around ever. So that's why we're always so it seems like we're being
it's so hard to figure out what stuff's going on.
But it is funny sometimes, like people you'll see on social media, like I heard a blank is coming, and I always think, where'd they get that from? Or I think, how'd they know that?
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, before I get off the city council topic, last thing I wanted to ask about is number one, I'm going to preface this that I'm an idiot when it comes to government in general, especially local government. And I was just curious, how does city council work? I mean, is it something? Can we come to the meetings? Can people come to the meetings? Should they come to the meetings? And when do they happen?
Sure. Kind of so we meet. The city council is the fiscal body of the city, meaning we set the city's budget. The mayor proposes us a budget in the summer. And then we kind of look over that budget and then decide, okay, are these the expenditures we want to spend money on? We vote. There's 9 of us. We vote on the budget, and then the budget, if the mayor signs it or we got to rework it, that's what the city functions on the next year.
Okay.
And if anybody needs anything in the course of that year that is outside that budget, that would be an additional appropriation. They have to come before us and ask for that additional appropriation, and we figure out how we're going to do that. So that's the biggest thing the city council does is we set the budget. And then we also can pass ordinances, which are laws, but we don't do a ton of those because there's enough.
Right.
But when things come up that need our attention, we can do that. So that's what we do. That's our biggest job. We also negotiate police and fire contracts, and we do, but the biggest thing is the budget.
Yeah.
Then meetings are twice a month. They're open to the public. They're the first and third Mondays at 6:00, but they're also live streamed. Okay. So anybody can watch. You can watch from home, and they're left up. So if you miss a meeting and you want to go back and look and the agenda is made public, we tried to make it even back in 2015, 2016, that first council I was on. I can remember meeting and all of us asking, like, how can we make this to where more people have access and anybody can ask questions? Like, how can we be more transparent in what we're doing? Because I tell you, if anything gets done, the conspiracy theory, there's no shortage of people who can come up with conspiracy theories. There's not a shortage of those people. And so we've tried to be just as open as we can. We let anybody can come and speak about any topic. There's a comment section. Yeah. Or if a topic comes up in the council and a public person wants to speak, we'll give them minutes to speak on that topic. So we try to make it, and that's been both parties. Everybody that's been in charge has tried to make that as transparent as possible. But yes, people should. I'd like to think that we're just doing such a good job. A lot of people don't have to come.
There you go.
Right? But we don't most of the time, unless it's maybe a subdivision going in somewhere or a zoning change that the neighborhood is upset
the one
about.
I've been to, that's what it was about.
Yes. Well, because everybody gets a letter. If a zoning change is going in near you, you got to get a letter in the mail and people are like, oh, hell, what's it going to be? And I totally understand that. And we I do anyway, give community input a great deal of weight when deciding if this should become this or if this zoning should change, because those are the people who've already made a commitment to Jeffersonville, so that's what we do. That's when we meet. I've prided myself on, I put my real cell phone number out in the public. Like, it's not fake. Like it rings on my phone. And I think I've maybe not at the time, but I've gotten back to anybody who's ever called. I've communicated with them. There's only been one or two people where I've had to block because you do. I mean, there's a certain, like in any field, there's a certain element of people you deal with in real estate. They're just like, okay, but everybody's gotten a return. And that's the way it should be. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you might've covered some of this already, but what would you say is the biggest misconception that people have about city council or just local government? I am so glad you asked that. People think that we have a lot more authority than we have. They think somebody's garbage doesn't get picked up. They'll call me like, hey, why don't you? And they know me. They probably know me or saw my flyer. Right. I'm totally happy helping them. But I can't tell. I don't have no city council has the authority to tell anybody to do anything. Sure. We are not administrative. We don't. Might be able to increase the budget next year for it or something. And I will say, and when I talk to people around the state, other municipalities, our city workers are flat out just better than everywhere else. For sure. Like if you look at our trash pickup, for example, it's incredible compared to you throw anything out there, it's going to be gone. Like they do a fantastic job. So I'll take calls from people, and then I can I just see myself as, well, I tell them, I can put you in touch with so-and-so, or I can call him for you, but I can't make nobody do anything. You got people that speed on your street. Yeah. Okay. Exactly. Like I can tell the chief that, but the only person we get to hire is our attorney. Gotcha. I can tell him what to do. Yeah. Yeah. But that people think, and then when people think like with businesses coming in, it's like, well, why'd you all get, oh my God, if I got to hear another thing about a car wash, I'm going to snap. And it's like, well, I don't get to pick. We're not playing Sims. Sure. I'm not, we don't get to control that the way people think we do. So a lot of times people just don't understand. They're like, well, I elected you. And I'm like, yeah, you elected me. And if they're really treating you bad, I can cut their budget next time. But most of the time, we just don't have the authority people think we have the authority to do. Well, I wanted to double back for a second there about how good Jeffersonville trash is, because I had an incredible story about this. Our trash guy, I don't know his name, I'm sorry, because he's the nicest person I've ever met in my life. I look out my window one morning on a Wednesday morning, it's my trash pickup, and I go, oh, I forgot to take the trash cans out. He walks up to my house, grabs my trash can, and hauls it out there. I walk out there. I'm sorry I didn't take it. He goes, oh, no big deal. It's no. Yeah. And then proceeds to offer me tickets to IU because he's not using them for that night. I wasn't able to use it, unfortunately, but I was like, wow, that's awesome. That's incredible. So just like I said, just doubling back to that, because I thought they are great. And all the departments are like and not, again, this wasn't Scott Hawkins, but we went to great lengths to just 2 years ago, reworked their pay and benefit package at all levels, like days off, vacation days and all that. And then I would imagine that probably next year we'll kind of come back to that again, because we don't have that many people when you look at every other field, like in redevelopment, I talk to a lot of business owners. You talk to every business owner, they tell you the same thing. Can't get people. Right. Everybody at any level. We don't have a lot of people leave. Yeah. Like once they come to Jeff, like our health insurance package is incredible. Yeah. The pay is pretty good. So we get really good people, and I think it shows. Like they do a great job. It
absolutely shows. So last little thing on politics here. I think I've said last thing a couple times. I keep having more questions that pop up to me. But
my students, Well, one more thing.
So, what's the future in politics? Will there be another run for state representative? Is there another office in your future? What are you thinking?
I don't know. I'm not being coy. Don't miss it. Don't. A lot of people that get in politics, they seem like they kind of have a flow chart. Like I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this.
Check the box. Yeah.
I have no such flow chart. I got involved in city council, well, like I told you, kind of out of anger, but kind of out of, civic responsibility. Found it. I had an aptitude for it, I think, and people seem to agree because I've been reelected by large margins. So then when state representative, that opportunity came about, it's not something I was eyeball, like, I'm going to city council and do this. I was like, I'd probably be pretty good at that too. And I got some ideas. And so we ran for it. If an opportunity, people say, well, what are you going to do? You're going to run for mayor? You're going to run for city? I have no plans to run for anything.
Right.
My wife and I were talking the other day, I might run for school board, like wherever I think I could do some good.
Yeah.
And if whatever that looks like, and maybe nothing, maybe I won't run for anything. I have my two boys are now not boys, they're men. And
meant to ask about them earlier. Yeah, I'm glad you came back to them.
Grant is in Evansville and married, and Jordan is his wife, and she's in her, I think, second or third year of residency in the Evansville Hospital. Wow. And then Lex is working for Forbes accounting firm in Indianapolis. So they're both
killing
it. But 2 hours away in different directions.
Right.
So, and as they, and they're going to be, that both of them want to have kids sometime. So you can make all the plans you want, and then life is going to smack you in the face and you're going to do whatever. So I don't have any plans to do anything other than what I'm doing and do as much good as I can for as long as I can. Like that's where I'm at.
That's awesome. Well, Scott, I really appreciate you come talking to us today. Wanted to throw out my little pitch. If you or anybody feels like you're a notable person, or a notable person who people might be interested in Southern Indiana or Louisville, get in touch with us. Let us know. We want to make this as useful as we can for people. Like I said, I think the people are a big part of where we live, so we want to dive into that a little bit too. And then my little tag on the end, we don't just make these videos for our own good. We also sell real estate. So if you guys are looking to buy, sell, invest in our area, definitely talk to me. We'd love to help you out. So, Scott, appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, and I will get you a list of notable people.
Absolutely.